Story 1. I never believed the stories people told about working in morgues. You know, the weird noises, the strange feelings, all that stuff. I always thought it was just people spooking themselves out. But after that one night, I can't think of it the same way anymore. It was a Thursday, late into my shift, when everything happened. I remember sitting at the desk near the wall, trying to stay awake. I'd worked there long enough to get used to the quiet, but that night it felt different, heavier maybe, like the silence wasn't just silence, but something watching you. I kept brushing it off, telling myself I was just tired. I hadn't slept much the night before, and long shifts can mess with your head. So there I was, just doodling on a random piece of paper to keep myself distracted when I heard it. At first, it was faint, just a whisper. I wasn't even sure I'd heard it at all. But then, clear as day, I heard it again. Please don't leave me here. I froze. My pen slipped out of my hand and hit the floor, but I didn't even move to pick it up. My ears strained to catch another sound, but everything had gone back to that heavy silence. I sat there for what felt like forever, trying to convince myself it was my imagination. Maybe I was so tired that my brain was making up stuff. But then it came again, louder this time. Please, don't leave me here. It came from the cold drawers. I couldn't stop the shiver that ran down my body. My heart was beating so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to check, but at the same time, I couldn't just sit there and ignore it. So I got up slowly. My legs felt like they were made of lead, but I managed to make my way over to the row of cold drawers. There were 20 of them, lined up in neat rows, and I swear to you, I could feel something behind them, waiting. I tried to pinpoint where the sound was coming from, and my eyes landed on one drawer in particular. 3rd row, second from the left. My hands were shaking as I reached for the handle. My mind kept screaming at me to stop, to turn around and leave, but something else pushed me forward. When I finally pulled the drawer open, it was empty. Just an empty metal tray. Nothing weird, no body, no signs that anyone had been in there. It didn't make sense. I stared at it for what felt like hours, trying to figure out what I'd just heard. And then it happened again. Don't leave me here. But this time, it wasn't a whisper. It was a loud, clear voice, like someone standing right behind me. I spun around so fast I almost fell, but there was no one there. The room was just as empty as before. I felt this coldness creep into me, not like the kind you get when you step outside in winter, but the kind that starts in your chest and spreads, chilling you to the bone. It wasn't just cold, it was fear. I slammed the drawer shut and stumbled back to my desk, trying to make sense of what was happening. My breathing was shaky and my hands wouldn't stop trembling. Then the lights started flickering. I don't know if it was a power surge or what, but the room kept plunging into darkness only to light up again a second later. Each time the lights went out, I could feel something getting closer. I don't know how to explain it, but it was like the air around me was tightening, pressing in on me. When the lights finally stayed on, I thought I was safe. I thought maybe it was all in my head, but then I saw the footprints. They were wet like someone had just stepped out of a puddle. They started at the cold drawers and trailed across the floor, heading straight for me. I looked down at my own feet, but the footprints didn't match my shoes. And then I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, there was something standing at the edge of the room. At first, I thought it was just a shadow, but as I stared, it became clearer. It was a figure, tall, gaunt, and covered in what looked like dripping water. Its face, or where its face should have been, was blurry, like static on an old TV. It started moving toward me. I didn't even think. I just grabbed my keys and bolted for the door, but the thing was faster. Before I could reach the exit, the lights flickered again, and when they came back on, it was standing right in front of me. I couldn't move. My whole body froze as its blurry static face leaned in close to mine, and then I heard the voice again. Please, don't leave me here. It wasn't coming from the figure. It was inside my head, echoing over and over, louder each time I tried to scream, but no sound came out, and then it was gone. Just like that, the figure disappeared. The lights stopped flickering, and the room was silent again, but the footprints were still there, and so was that cold, heavy feeling. I didn't stick around to see what would happen next. I grabbed my stuff and ran out of there as fast as I could. I didn't even bother locking up. The next day, I tried to explain what happened to my supervisor, but they just looked at me like I was crazy. They said the cameras didn't pick up anything unusual, and when they checked the room, there was no sign of the footprints or anything else. But I know what I saw, and now, every time I close my eyes, I hear that voice. Please don't leave me here. It's like it's burned into my brain. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forget it, but one thing's for sure. I'm never setting foot in that morgue again. Story 2. I've been through a lot in life, seen things most people wouldn't believe, but nothing prepared me for that one night. It was supposed to be just another quiet shift at the morgue. Quiet, right? That's what they always say before something crazy happens. Anyway, there I was, sitting in this cold, dimly lit room. The walls were this pale, peeling green, and the sounds of the fluorescent lights above was the only noise keeping me company. The morgue isn't exactly the most exciting place to be. Most nights I'd just sit there, stare at the clock, and count down the hours until my shift was over. That night felt like one of those boring ones at first. The body on the table was just lying there, covered with a plain white sheet. The guy had come in earlier that evening. I didn't know much about him, just that he was found alone in some apartment. Heart attack, they said. Looked like he'd been dead for a while before anyone found him. Poor guy. I don't know why I started watching him. Maybe it was boredom, or maybe something about the stillness in the room made me feel uneasy. It's weird, staring at someone who was alive not too long ago, but now just gone. The room was so quiet that even the ticking of the clock sounded like thunder. I leaned back in my chair, trying to shake off this heavy feeling settling in my chest. Then, out of nowhere, the light flickered. At first, I didn't think much of it. It's an old building. Stuff like that happens all the time. But then it went completely dark for a second. Not even a sliver of light. I couldn't even see my own hand in front of me. And I swear in that moment of complete darkness, I felt like something was there. Like I wasn't alone anymore. When the lights flickered back on, I let out a small laugh, mostly to calm myself down. But then I looked at the body on the table. My heart stopped. The head wasn't facing up anymore. It was turned. It was looking right at me. I froze. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. That wasn't possible, right? I mean, dead people don't move. That's like rule number 1 of being dead. But there it was, the head, tilted just enough to meet my eyes. I don't know how long I sat there staring at it. My mind was racing, trying to come up with some explanation. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe the light playing tricks on me. Yeah, that had to be it. I slowly stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. The sound made me jump. I took a few hesitant steps toward the table, my legs feeling like jelly. The closer I got, the colder the room seemed to get. Okay, I whispered to myself. It's just your mind messing with you. The head's still in the same spot. But when I got close enough to really see, my stomach dropped. The head was turned. Not just turned, angled, like it had twisted itself unnaturally just to look at me. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over my own feet. My breath was coming in short, sharp gasps, and I could feel sweat dripping down my back. This wasn't normal. None of this was normal. And then, the light flickered again. This time when it came back on, the sheet had slipped down a little. Not all the way, but just enough to show part of the guy's chest. The skin looked pale and wrinkled, like it had been soaked in water for too long. I didn't want to move closer again, but I couldn't stop myself. It was like I needed to prove to myself that this wasn't really happening. My hands were shaking as I reached for the edge of the sheet. Slowly I pulled it back. The chest was rising and falling. I yelped, dropping the sheet and stumbling back again. My back hit the wall, and I slid down to the floor, clutching my knees. My mind was racing. The guy was dead. He couldn't be breathing. That wasn't possible. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the body, waiting for something else to happen. And then it did. The head tilted further. The jaw unhinged slowly at first, like it was stiff, and then it just dropped open. A low, raspy sound came out, like wind blowing through a hollow tunnel. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything but sit there frozen in fear, but my body wouldn't move. My eyes were locked on that face, on those pale, sunken eyes that were somehow staring right into me. Then the body started to move, not like a normal person would move, but in this jerky, unnatural way. The arms twitched first, then the fingers curled, and before I knew it, the whole body was sitting up. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't think. All I could do was watch as it turned to face me completely. The face, it didn't look human anymore. The skin was gray, and the eyes, they weren't eyes anymore. They were black, empty holes that seemed to pull me in like they were swallowing my soul. The thing opened its mouth again, and this time, words came out. Except they weren't words, not really. It was more like a series of sounds, guttural and harsh. But somehow, I understood. You see me? My body finally reacted, and I scrambled to my feet, backing up against the wall. I couldn't take my eyes off it as it slowly slid off the table, its movements still jerky and wrong. You see me? It said again, louder this time. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. No, I whispered. No, I don't see anything. I don't know what you are. The thing took a step toward me, and I swear the room got even colder. My breath came out in white puffs, and my whole body was shaking like I was standing in a blizzard. You called me, it said. I shook my head again, harder this time. I didn't call anyone. I don't know what you're talking about. The thing tilted its head almost like it was confused. Then it took another step toward me, and I could feel this pressure in my chest, like it was sucking the air out of the room. I don't know how I did it, but I found the strength to move. I darted around the table, keeping as much distance between me and that thing as I could. My hands fumbled for the door handle, and for a terrifying moment, I thought it was locked. But then, it clicked, and I yanked the door open, practically falling into the hallway. I didn't stop running until I was outside, gasping for air. When I finally looked back, the morgue was dark. The lights were out, and the door was closed like nothing had happened. I quit the next day, never went back, and I don't care if people think I'm crazy.